Hey friends, Jill here. Welcome to Whispering Willow Farm. As you guys just saw, our flowers are starting to kind of die out. They're starting to get a lot of disease, and before they just completely ended up being taken over by the hot summer heat, I wanted to do a flower review because many of you guys have asked me what has been my favorite flower to grow this year, what I'm going to grow again, and so I thought this would just be a really fun video to do and show you guys some of my favorite ones, tell you guys the varieties and which ones are for sure making their way back into my garden at our new place. And so I wanted to just kind of dive into it. I know I've done a lot of videos showing our flowers, but I've kind of been really bad about naming the varieties specifically, and that's because I planted a lot of them and I put the tag in there, but obviously they got huge, so I did go in and verify and make sure all of these varieties are correct to tell you guys the right ones. And so I really just want to get started. Also too, I want to mention about at the end of this video, we'll talk more about it, but crosses, and we'll go over that in a minute. But yeah, let's get started. All right, so this beautiful orange one is the only one that was a really kind of uniform decent flower of the Benares giant. Now all of these varieties came from Botanical Interest. That is where I ordered all of my flower seeds this year, so I'll link them below if you guys want to check them out. This is the Benares. It's beautiful in color. I absolutely loved that it was bright and orange. However, I got the giant and I found that the orange ones in particular never got that big. A lot of the different colors I got a lot bigger, and I don't think that has anything to do with the color. I just think that that's kind of how it happened for me, which I was kind of sad about. But I did have so many giant varieties this year that this was really nice to kind of have as a filler, as a smaller one in a bouquet. So I did really like that. I did really enjoy that. I also really heavily planted my zinnias. You guys can see behind me. I mean, it is just kind of madness. And so I did every other one. And for my giants, I did every two. I planted in the square of my trellising. I will link that video below if you guys want to look that up. But that is the only thing that I think I could have done different, was to give them more room. But I actually really liked this one. This was the Benares giant. It comes in a lot of different colors. So typically the Benares, it's a mix of seeds. So you can get purples, you can get pinks, you can get this orange, even like some red notes in some of them. And so I liked that there was a variety. I wasn't just buying like the giant purple. That's only throwing purple zinnias. So I did really like that this had a bunch of different colors, a lot of really bright springtime colors. So I definitely think this will be one that I will order again to grow in the springtime. Another one that I really liked, that I was kind of impressed with, were the Northern Lights. And so the Northern Light zinnias produce these beautiful pinks. So you guys can already see these are different colored pinks. You've got the lighter one and then the little bit darker. And you guys can also see there's quite a bit of a size difference. Now, I personally love that because what I have found, this is my first year really growing flowers, I found when you're making a bouquet or you're making arrangements, you need a lot of different textures, different colors, different sizes. You need a lot of different elements to make a really pretty bouquet. And so I actually really liked that the Northern Lights through a lot of different sizes. It was like I had several that were this size, medium. I had several that were just these small little petite ones. I personally really love that. Also really just like the color of this pink. I think it is stunning. You guys can see lots of beautiful textures. And so these are ones that I definitely want to grow again, just because they were they're just pretty. I just love this color. They're so pretty. This is also part of the Northern Lights blend. Look at that. Look how big this one is, especially in comparison to the medium flowers. So that was pretty accurate. I would have some that were really large, medium, small. That is something I would say that the Northern Lights were definitely one of my favorites for that reason alone. And check out that color. I mean, check out the textures and the color in those. Isn't that so cool? It's just kind of this deep, moody pink. I really liked this one a lot as well. One that I didn't care for, that I was so disappointed. This is one that I was looking forward to, was the Envy Zinnia. all my seeds. I was gonna bring out the seed packets, but I've already moved all my seeds to the new house. So I'm just gonna grab a photo online from Botanical Interest, their website, and pop it in here. But the MB zinnia, I wasn't impressed with, mainly because it didn't produce very much at all. I was expecting it to kind of be, you know, like medium size here. They were all very, very small. They also didn't produce a bunch. And I was expecting this really kind of bright, in-your-face, lime green, and they were just kind of dull. You really couldn't tell. Another one that I just wasn't crazy about was the candy cane zinnia. You guys can see here, it is pretty. It does have some red notes in there. However, it's a very, very small flower, and most of them were just that, super, super small. The color wasn't prominent enough to where I was like, oh, you know, I was so blown away. I think I had such high hopes for this flower, just being like this beautiful thing. And I was kind of disappointed, mainly with their size too, because they're just so small that you really can't see that fine detail in the petals like I was hoping. It is a pretty filler flower, so if you were looking for a filler just to kind of throw in, I think it would be a good option. But for me, I don't know. Out of all the different varieties that zinnia has, right? I mean, there are so many. I don't think this is one I will grow again. I think this will be one that I will replace with a new one. The Queen's Lime series I grew last year, and it actually crossed with another one, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But the Queen's Lime is absolutely beautiful. I love that one. So if you're looking for flowers, that is another one I would recommend. One that I actually really, really loved, I don't think I will grow it in the summer, just for color purposes, but I think it would be one that would be really good to grow in the fall before the frost. So zinnias are not frost hardy, so the frost will kill them. However, you can still plant another session. You know, I could be planting right now in July and still be harvesting before my frost date, and I'm good. And that is the Fireball Zinnia. And I'm gonna grab these. The textures of the colors on these absolutely blow my mind. So there are deep oranges, there's these reds, but in the reds, it's like an ombre of orange. And it's very light, so you guys can see right here at the inner part of the petals, it's really light orange and then goes into this deep moody red. This one you can see a lot better on how it's orange, and then feeds into the red. I mean, I absolutely love these. I thought for a fall arrangement, these would be really, really pretty. Just that, I don't know, when I think of these, I think of moody, right? Like and the textures, I'm not sure that the camera is like doing justice, all the different layers and textures that are in here as far as the colors. They're absolutely magnificent. I definitely recommend you guys grow these. They were all pretty standard as far as being this size. That was pretty much the size that all of them threw, which I did appreciate that it was consistent, and I knew that's what I could expect out of it. But it's still a really good sized flower. So I liked those a lot. The next one is, I think I might have said this. Oh, wait, I've got two more to show you guys. Okay, these two were definitely my favorite, and for different reasons. So next up is the Cactus Zinnia. Now, most of my Cactus Zinnias are dying out. Matter of fact, all of these zinnias are the zinnias that I planted in early spring. So they've all done amazing. They would have done even better had I continued to cut them. I could literally go through with these right now, like with one of those, you hedge your bushes or whatever. No, that's not the proper term. And I could go through and just cut all of these, and in a couple weeks they would start growing again, which is honestly what I should do, because most of these are starting to get diseases. We've had a lot of rain, we've had a lot of humidity, and so if I were to just cut these, give them some space to regrow, they do really well. And so I don't have a lot of Cactus Zinnias to show you that I could cut. However, I have a ton of photos on my phone, and so I'm going to plug those in. But you guys can see here, this is just the cutest, quirkiest, crazy textured flower ever. I absolutely fell in love with this flower. One, because it's funky, right? Like when you think of a flower, most often you think of a flower like this, like you've got your uniform petals, and something about this just being so whimsical, that's the word that really comes to mind when I want to describe this Cactus Zinnia. It's just a very whimsical, it adds texture into an arrangement. it just, literally when I think of coming out to the garden and finding that one thing that sparks joy, this flower did that for me. They got huge. There was so many beautiful colors. You had hot pinks, you had peach, you had orange, you had yellow. I mean, the most magnificent, bright, vibrant colors, huge, large blooms. It was just, I fell in love. So 100%, I will always grow these. When someone asked me what my favorite flower of the year to grow was, what I was most surprised with, hands down, the Cactus Zinnia stole the show for me, and I honestly couldn't imagine not having it in my garden because that's how much joy it brought me. So I cannot recommend this flower more. There's so many seeds that I need to harvest right now. Granted, I didn't do anything to ensure that my zinnias did not get crossed. However, I kind of like that. The benefit of that is that you get really, really cool varieties. So essentially what you're having one variety crossed with another variety and you make a new variety is kind of what happens. And I actually really like that because sometimes you get these really, really awesome crosses, which is also what happened. So all of my zinnias last year crossed and they were all volunteer and came up. And this was a Queen's Lime that crossed with some other variety that I cannot remember. And it threw this absolutely magnificent pink, purple, orange toned flower. I'm gonna zoom you guys in so y'all can just see. Do you see all of those colors and those textures? Look at all, it's like an ombre of all these different colors. I stinking love this. Now this is really small, however, I had some pretty big ones that I had cut earlier in the season. They were absolutely magnificent. So I would encourage you, if you are not trying to save the seeds because you want to grow that specific variety, say maybe you're doing a seed swap and you need to ensure that those seeds are true, or maybe you're wanting to save that true seed, absolutely, do the necessary steps. All of my crosses have been the most beautiful, magnificent, little just flowers of happiness, and I have been so pleased that I didn't ensure that they are true. I do still have seeds left from all of these, so I can plant the true original variety next year as well because I just have extra seeds. And so I do encourage you, pick that one flower, maybe designate one small part in your garden when you can just kind of let them cross and do some experimental things and just see what happens, because I can guarantee you, you're not going to grow an ugly flower, right? Like these are all so pretty. So that was fun. Also, right behind me, you guys see all of these crazy zinnias. Those are the giant purple varieties. I was blown away by these just by the sheer fact of how giant they truly were. I've grown a lot of giant varieties in the past and they were large. These were like next level. Now, most of these are dying out and drying, which I am letting them all dry. So I grabbed you one to show you this drying, but check that out. You guys see how huge, when you see all the layers, this was a very, very accurate representation of what these flowers looked like. I have some beautiful photos I took earlier in the season. I'm going to show you. Most of these were really, really dark. Like overall, most of them were dark colored purple, but then I did have some that were kind of, again, the ombre. They started dark and then faded into this lighter purple. And they were really pretty. And as you guys can see here, it is one of those that is like a centerpiece to a bouquet, which I think is really pretty. Just go ahead and make something up here. You guys know arrangements I'm working on. It's not my specialty. Look at this. Oh, it's pretty. Whoops. All right. And just like that, I've got this little arrangement, but you guys can see it steals the show. And so if you are wanting a flower for the sake of selling and making arrangements, I think that the giant purple is a really, really good one to have on hand because it's one of those varieties that it is so large and giant, and it just kind of grabs your attention because it has so many different layers to it that you can really kind of form most of your bouquet. You know, you could have a couple of these and just do a bunch of filler flowers or some smaller zinnias, bachelor buttons, snapdragons, whatever. And these can kind of just be like the focal point of your bouquet, which I really liked having those. And so I'm definitely going to grow those again just because they were showstoppers. They have produced and produced so much. I think out of all of them, the giant purple, the northern lights, and the cactus zinnias have produced the most, even without me cutting them a whole lot. And so that is something too, if you're wanting to plant something and make sure you can get the most bang out of your buck, these really are the way to go. I would even say too, just zinnias in general, when you think about how much it costs to buy a seed packet, I think the seed packets at Botanical Interest are like $3, okay? So you're between $2 and $3 for a seed packet. You probably have anywhere from 50 to 75 seeds is usually what's standard. You guys, if I couldn't even tell you how many hundreds of zinnias I've cut this season, I can't tell you how many hundreds of zinnias are growing right now. It's just one of those things that when you're thinking about the cost up front for how much you get back in return, the seeds that you can save just from one, I guarantee you I've got a zinnia right now that I can grab and show you guys just how many seeds come in there. All right, so this was a giant purple. So this was this. And I'm gonna show you guys all of these zinnia seeds that are in here. I mean, there are so many of these are dropping on the ground too. All right, so I didn't even get all of them. You guys see all these seeds? There's literally hundreds of seeds there. It's just a really good investment, especially when you're thinking about trying to make money, you know, on your farm. I've talked about how cut flowers is a really good option to bring in income on your hobby farm if you're wanting to be a profitable farm. It just makes a lot of sense. So these are my zinnia flower reviews. We're actually just gonna walk over to the sunflowers because they are loaded in bees. Most of them are too tall where I can't even cut them. And the ones that I could cut have already died off. But I am going to go ahead and take the camera over there and show you guys and give you just a little review on those as well. So if you've been following along this summer, you know that Nathan planted me Mammoth sunflowers that I had saved from last year. And then Jessica had given me some Procut sunflowers, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, and I ended up saving the seeds from them. I think she got the Procut sunflower seeds from Haas Tools. Look at all those flowers. Check that out. Okay, I got sidetracked. I want to say that she got her sunflower seeds from Haas Tools. I would have gotten all of my sunflower seeds from Botanical Interest as well. And then these right here in the archway I'm about to show you are actually volunteers from last year. You guys can see they have just leaned and kind of used that trellis for support. We still have them blooming. We have so many bees. So you guys can see that was just your standard height sunflower. The color's really pretty, however, I wasn't just super crazy about them, and I think it's because the heads of them were really, really small. And when I'm making an arrangement, I typically am wanting like a large sunflower to kind of be the focal point and then fill around it. And so they were really pretty. The pollinators have absolutely loved them. However, I used to love the idea of this multi-headed flower. I just thought it was so cool. And now that I'm dabbling more into cut flowers and really thinking about using them for arrangements, I just don't love the multi-headed ones as much. Now, that being said, I'll still always plant them in my garden because if I had to guess, I'm gonna assume I'm gonna have a few volunteers over at our new house pop up. Obviously, I'm not gonna rip those out. That's gonna remind me of Jessica. It's gonna be really sweet. So I'm actually really looking forward to having all the little random volunteers. I am committed to next summer leaving most of the volunteers up, just kind of as a, you know, reflection of what all she did and she put into that garden. I just think that would be really sweet to kind of have a season designated to Jessica's volunteers. And so I think they're really pretty. I won't intentionally grow them again. Now, Nathan planted the Mammoth multi-headed sunflower that I'm going to turn you guys around to show you. It is huge. And although it is a showstopper, and although it is really cool, I will definitely not be growing these in my raised beds for the sheer fact that they take up so much space, and they're so huge that I can't actually cut, you know, any of the flowers off of them, because I would literally need a huge ladder, climbing on a ladder. If you, depending on where you plant them in your raised beds, that may not even be feasible. So although it's cool, and again, if I grew it, I would grow it just for the sake of seeing how tall of a sunflower I could actually grow. That might actually be a really cool experiment. But as far as growing them with the intentions for like a cut flower, definitely not. But I'm gonna turn the camera around and show you, because this thing is massive.
Look at that.
So obviously that's pretty cool, right? I mean, I grew a sunflower that Lord only knows how tall it really is. I mean, if I was trying to, like I said, do something and just see how big of a sunflower I would grow, definitely grow some sort of mammoth. It would be super cool just for experiment. It'd also be one of those really cool things that if you had kids who were into gardening, hey, you know what, let's see who can grow the biggest sunflower this year. That might actually be a really fun idea. But as far as what I'm wanting to kind of transition into on the new farm, definitely not something that I'm going to be growing an abundance of, or maybe not even growing any of. Now back behind me were the Procut sunflowers that came from Jessica. I absolutely love these. First of all, I'm letting all these dry out so I can save the seeds from them. Granted, they will be crossed, so I don't really know. We have that sunflower patch in the back of the new place that my friend Sean is actually growing. That's where I'm probably gonna grow a couple of these just as an experiment to see what they threw. I'm not gonna be growing a lot of them, but I am gonna see. If not, I will definitely just buy the seeds from Haas Tools again. I love these because they were really kind of the perfect height. They didn't get very tall, which I actually really liked. It was really easy to come out here and harvest the heads off of them. The stalks of them were really kind of ideal size too for going into a bouquet. And then you guys can see, look how massive this thing is. And so these produce really, really large size sunflower heads, which was really cool. It could obviously be a major focal point in a bouquet. I really, really like that. I mean, check this one out. Look how big that is. I mean, that's insane. These are actually starting to go to seed. Yeah, so these are starting to go to seed. I definitely want to save the seeds from those. But the Procut sunflowers from Haas Tools, 100% will always grow. Another one that we're growing at the new property, and I told you guys this the other day, was the White Knight. Really, really pretty, smaller. They started producing sunflowers when they were about 2 to 3 foot tall, which is really nice if you're looking for a cut sunflower. Super impressed with them, super impressed with the size of them. It's also, I want to say, maybe a 50-day variety. I'd have to do my research and double check that, but it was one of those that was like a really fast producing variety, which is really nice too when you're thinking about wanting to grow something so that you can make bouquets and obviously, you know, bring a profit in on that. So that is my review on my zinnias and my sunflowers. I hope this was helpful if you're kind of like thinking about spring garden already, or you're wanting to dabble into cut flowers and you just don't really know because there's so many options. I wanted to just give you guys an honest review of what I thought, what I'm gonna grow again. Next year, I'm gonna be incorporating tulips and poppies and bachelor buttons and snapdragons and all these other flowers. So I think it'll be really fun to kind of take you guys along on this journey as I am growing these varieties for the first time. I am, you know, seeing how they do, figuring out how they go well in a bouquet, what works well growing together. And I'm hoping to just be able to put out next spring a lot more content revolved around cut flowers. So many of you guys have been so interested. I had a lot of high hopes this year, but I also knew that I was going to be in a season of transition, and honestly I was just going to be limited on my time and my resources. But next spring I'm going all in, you guys. I'm going to grow all the flowers. I'm going to teach you guys all the things, and I really am excited. I hope you guys enjoyed this little flower review. I'd love to know what your favorite flower was that you grew this year, so please leave them down in the comments. But thanks for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.